everybody. Welcome once again to the Freedom Nation podcast on the Retire Rich and Retire Free, or Exit Rich and Retire Free Network, which is our new focus as we move forward here. Sharing with you really folks that have done it. You know, they've gone out, they've built businesses and been successful, and are also helping others. And that's our guest today. James Robbins built a business, and now he also has a business that helps others really succeed, whether it's small business owners trying to, or business leaders trying to build their leadership skills and training, but also helping speakers and personal development from that perspective. So we'll talk to James today about his journey. We'll also talk a little bit about what he's doing now and an upcoming book that he's got coming out this year, which will be his second book. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on in just a second.
All in you. Everything you're looking for, it's all in you. You gotta believe that it's all in you. Everything you're searching for, it's all in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. James, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to be here.
Thanks for being on today. We're really excited to learn a little bit about your story and how you got to where you're at. So why don't we kick off with that? Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you're at today.
I grew up on a small cattle ranch in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains where life was simple. I was a shy, homely, redheaded, introverted kid who then wanted to go make movies and become a film director. But after college, as life sometimes throws you a curve, I ended up going to ministry, which was not on my plan, but I did that for a number of years because I just enjoyed helping people. And after a while doing that, I started to feel a certain restlessness within me. And I was wondering, what else could I do? And I looked to John Maxwell and what he did, where he transitioned out of ministry and started a leadership development company. And I thought, okay, well, I could do that because I was doing leadership development inside the church at the time. So that's how it started. And it was really more just, can I go and speak at a conference and make some side money? In a sense, that's how it began. And then it just grew from there.
I love it. A simple, easy answer to that. So how did you really begin with that? I mean, going, speaking, stuff like that, from that leadership development, it's a pretty crowded world out there. You spoke about one of the big guys out there when it certainly comes to it. How did you differentiate yourself from a lot of the other folks that are out there doing the same thing?
Well, I don't know that there was a plan at the time to differentiate myself. I was just like, how can I make money at this, right? But looking back, what did differentiate me was my time working in ministry gave me so much experience working with people. I mean, it's like a PhD in people, right? Because when you are leading, this is true for a lot of not-for-profits as well. When you're leading in a not-for-profit setting, you usually have a team that's paid. And then you've got this massive group of volunteers that typically you can't fire, you can't kick out, and you just have to make it work. And so all of that learning about people then really equipped me. And then the second thing was just my use of stories and storytelling. And I would have thought that everyone does this and that's normal. But as I got up and I would speak and then my name kept getting passed around, I thought, I must be doing something right. And the feedback was just the way that I was using stories and simplifying the message in a way for people to, understand it. And in fact, Jeff, what's interesting was I went into that world with so much insecurity because I was like at first I hid the fact, I didn't tell people that I was still a preacher. I was doing two jobs at the same time. Yeah. I didn't tell people because I didn't want them to think like, well, what do you know about, leading people? And I tried to create more, in a sense, value by bringing more expertise and studies and, this study and that study. And as I would do that, people's eyes would just glaze over. And then I switched back to like, well, I'm at the golf course and I've got this big hose and this guy's like swearing at me and I'm thinking I should spray him. And then all the eyes are locked onto me. And that's when I realized, okay, people People need stories, and I've really built so much of my company on that.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, and it's funny that you came at it from that approach, and you realized, okay, I'm not going to get invited back unless I keep the audience entertained. And I think back to the best preachers I've ever met. One of my really good friends is a preacher here in Austin, Texas, and I Bubba is the only preacher that I've ever found that can mix the message of the Lord with Star Wars and like and specific Star Wars movies, kind of weave it all together into a big story, and get his message across. But it is an entertainment field. No matter what you talk about, you have to entertain to be able to get the message across. And I think it's no different when I see people get up and present on the stage, and it's either it's a boring fest of statistics, or it's the death by PowerPoint at that point. The best speaker I've ever met used no more than 6 slides. And when he taught me, he was like, okay, you've got to cut your presentation down to 6 slides and get your message across at the time. And, it's what it is. It's telling that story.
Great advice that he gave you.
So let's talk a little bit about the type of training you do through your company.
The most of what we do is leadership development. So obviously there's some bigger things we do, whether we're doing some culture change in a large organization or a manufacturing company. We're working on multiple levels, but predominantly the most people that come through our program are managers of some kind, or it could be a small business owner who just hasn't really had any leadership training, and they got into business not even thinking, oh, I've got to lead this team. But you learn really quickly that it's difficult to find good people.
Yep.
And if you don't keep them, it really hurts. And so how do you create the kind of team that people love to be around? And how do you create the kind of team that almost views the company like it's their company?
Yeah.
Right. Because when you get that ownership and they're really behind you, then that's what creates a loyal staff.
I love that. And I think of the teams that I've worked for, with the companies I've worked for over the years. I remember working for, I won't say the name, but one of the largest financial services firms. And honestly, for the first 10 years, 7 to 8 years, I will say that I worked there, I felt that exact thing. It was like, this is my company and I want to see it succeed and I'm going to do whatever. And then they broke that trust with me. And as my dad puts it, you don't own me, you rent me at that point. So, I became a little bit more mercenary from that point on. And I don't think I ever got that back. No other place that I worked until I founded my own companies did I ever feel that ownership feeling again. So you can build it, but you can lose it really fast too.
That's such a common story too. And often what I'll tell people is that when you look at leadership, it's a relationship that you have with your people. And like every relationship, it's actually a value exchange. And sometimes people don't like to think of relationships like this, but all relationships are value exchange. Even for those of you who are listening and you have a partner, you have a spouse, it's a value exchange. And when that value gets out of balance, then someone complains. Well, a great metaphor to view leadership under is sort of like a bank account, right? In a bank account, you got deposits and withdrawals. And just like our personal accounts, like you want to keep it in the positive. So it's no different in leadership. It's deposits and withdrawals. Now, we're usually focused on withdrawals, which is, I need this from you. Where's this? How's this going? I need this. And that's fine. That's not wrong. But you have to counter that with deposits. And deposits are, my boss cares about me. They're helping me grow. They appreciate that I'm doing good work. They're helping me be successful, right? And so what good leaders are able to do is just always keep that bank account in a positive balance. And sometimes a withdrawal is, we're in the manufacturing plant and the air conditioning's out, but you got to work anyways. Well, that's a withdrawal. So then you better counter with some extra deposits that day, right? It's just, to me, that's one of the simplest ways to view leadership, because when that trust gets broken or when the account gets overdrawn, that's when people say things like, well, I'll show up and do my job, but don't think
Yeah.
I'm going to stay 1 minute more.
Yep.
Right. And that's their way of evening out the value exchange.
I love that. Yeah, and it's absolutely true. So you wrote a book a while back. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
For sure. It's called 9 Minutes on Monday.
Okay.
And it's a simple framework to help leaders build engaging teams or engaging companies. So it's built around these 9 engagement drivers, right? There are these things that we just know from research drive engagement.
Mhm.
And they're not complicated. The problem is that everyone's so busy
Mm.
that we don't do them. So what 9 Minutes on Monday does is it teaches you what the 9 drivers, and then it helps you build out a Monday morning ritual. And the Monday morning ritual, you pull this basically sheet out that has 9 questions on it,
Mhm.
and you're going to answer the 9 questions, like as simple as like, who am I going to connect with? Who am I going to help grow this week? Who am I going to recognize for, great work this week? And you're just going to make a small micro commitment for each one. And
I
as
like
you
that.
do that week after week, what it does is it gets you to be intentional about how you're leading and not let all the fires and the things that are, the urgent pull you away from the things that are enduring
Mhm.
at helping your staff show up in the highest state of motivation that they
Yeah.
can. So I think because it's simple, it's just had a long shelf life and people are still finding value in it. And at the end of the day, when people do it, it works. And that's why it's been so popular, I think, with
Well, and
companies.
it's one of those things it's very simple in the end. Those simplest things are the ones that people can repeat. And when you can build it into a habit like that okay, every Monday I do this very thing, and make those commitments. It's the repetitive nature of it that ends up building that habit in you, and eventually you don't even need to pick that out on Monday. You don't need that Monday morning checklist, but you still, I would be the one that still has that Monday morning checklist every week, just pulling it out and going. Would you now, how far or how deep, let's say you're working with an organization, how deep would you take that down? I mean, could it go down to the individual level or the individual contributor level, or?
It would go down as far as the supervisor level, kind of
Okay.
your lowest level of leadership.
Yep.
Because after that, then the questions wouldn't make as much sense. You'd have to tweak them a little bit. But
Sure.
we've just seen it work at every level. So
Yeah.
you'd think, oh, the C-suite knows all this stuff, but it
No.
actually has nothing to do whether you know it or not. Right? Like great leadership it's actually the little things done consistently, and most of the little things we know them. It's
Yeah.
like it's like six-pack abs. We know how to get six-pack abs. Doesn't
Yep.
mean I have them. I don't. But I know how to get them. So
Mhm.
it's not a knowledge problem, right? It's an execution problem. Leadership is honestly, it's the same.
Yeah, leadership is your six-pack abs. I love it. Well, you've got a new book coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about what the subject of that one's going to be?
I'm really excited about it. It's so different than my last one, and it's been a book that's 12 years in the making,
Yeah.
because it's really born out of my own struggle and my
Okay.
own challenges, which really kicked off with sort of a proverbial midlife crisis of what am I doing with my life.
Mm.
And anyways, the book is titled The Call to Climb, and it's a fable written about this mountain that's hidden deep in the Andes that summons people to climb when they need to have a conversation with their soul because they're
Nice.
out of alignment. So, if you've ever had that feeling like you're stuck, but you're not sure why, or you're trying to change, but nothing seems to be changing, or
Mhm.
you're asking yourself that question, like, am I on the right path? And am I meant for more than this? Well, the answer is yes, you are. And so the book is really follows this character as they're in a very similar state, and they stumble into this village and then realize that, oh, they've been waiting for them, and they're called to climb. And through the climb, it's a journey of discovery, realizing the subconscious drivers that are pulling them off track, them being too worried about what everyone thinks about their life, letting go of the past so they have that energy freed up. And yeah, I'm excited about it. It'll be interesting in that I think people will either love it or hate it. There's probably going to be both, right? There's going to be some people that I think
There's
really love
always
this
going to be
book,
haters, but yeah.
and there'll be some people that it's just not for them, and that's
Yeah.
fine. No problem there. But no, I'm super excited. So everything's out of my hands now, and it comes out on August 5th.
Nice. Well, I mean, and I honestly love those kind of what I call storybooks because I just finished reading one by an Australian author and business coach. And, it was a very simple concept that he was laying out, but he told it in that story form. And it was one of those things you just read the book and enjoyed the book. Even if I didn't get anything business wise out of it, I enjoyed the story of the book and the characters and everything in there. So I applaud you in going that route because I think some of the best business books, built to sell, a lot of Ken Blanchard's books and things like that, it just makes sense to give that message in that format.
Yeah, I think they're sticky too. Like I think of
Yeah.
five dysfunctions of a team, right? Like I still remember reading that, and yeah, every once in a while you just need a break from here's the 8 points in this
Yeah.
chapter, and just let me enjoy a story, and I'll find the point, right?
I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll figure the points out. It's almost more fun to kind of pick the points out of there. So
That was one of the lessons I actually learned preaching, because when you're going through the Bible, there's a lot of times Jesus spoke and he would tell a story and then he just wouldn't explain it. Like he
yeah,
wouldn't be like, and then here's the 3 points you need to get from this. And at
yeah,
first I was always like, well, it would have been better if he would like gave us the three
yeah.
points. But now I realize, no, it's because you need to think about it. And in some ways, everyone's going to take something different
Correct.
based on where you are in your life at the moment. And that's
Yeah,
the beauty of stories. They're they're open enough to interpretation that there's not one point.
yeah. Well, and it's funny. You can go back and read those same books, and the next time you read it, you might pull something out of it from a completely different perspective. That you're at a different point in your life and a different, wait a minute, I didn't even think about that. I mean, I always think of the book, The 4 Hour Work Week. It's the book I've read the most anywhere, and literally every time I read it, it's like I'm reading it completely new because it always seems to be at a different time of life where I'm like, well, I hadn't thought about that before, and I don't even remember that from these 17 times I've read it before this. So that's the mark of a good book. It can pull that out of you when you need it.
I was 10 years into my marriage and I started reading this marriage book, and I was a third of the way through before I was like, wait, I think I've read this book before. And somebody had given it to me like before I was married,
Yeah,
which a marriage book before you're married doesn't really help
it's
much.
useless. Yeah,
So that
you
just
got to have a little bit of mileage under you before you can
for
really get
sure.
that.
It's like going to Lamaze class before your first baby. It's
Yes,
like,
exactly. Well, James, what other thing besides the book? What else is new in your business or life that you'd like to share?
well, that's a big question. I think for those of you who are business owners, I'm sure you'll really relate with this. We have our leadership stuff that we do. This new book comes out in a few months. It definitely has a different focus. We'll have a coaching program that goes with that.
Okay.
So my big challenge right now is, how do I marry everything together? Do I marry everything?
Hmm.
Do I have these two separate kind of streams? Do I have the capacity for that? So I know that this isn't a therapy session today, but that's the thing that I'm wrestling with. If you want to know what's new for me,
Yeah.
it's just me trying to figure out, what's the best way forward. And I think probably the answer is there's no one right answer, and there's going to be a certain evolution as I go. But anyways, that's what I'm wrestling with. The book is I've been working so much on it, neglected some of my other business because of it, but
Mhm.
that's really the big elephant in the room for me,
Yeah.
but now that the book is out of my hands, we're focused on taking people through the program. So how I do
Okay.
programs is I'll for those of you who have written a book or you want to write a book, just know that you really don't make money on books. You
Mm,
got to have something else with it. So on my first book, one of the reasons it did so well is we have a great online program that goes with it. So
okay.
we're doing the same with this book. And how I do it is that I usually take people through a beta version, then I take
Mm,
through another beta version, which is going to be different. And then finally, hopefully, get to a final version. And it just takes a few iterations before you get it so that it resonates. So that's what I'm working on.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I've been there many times, and I'm in that process myself, so I can completely relate with you. It's just, it's one of those things where you bring up something new, and you're like, okay, how does this fit, and does it fit, or does it need to be two separate things? And I'm at that kind of crossroads, and with my business, it's the same. Thinking about that, so I can completely relate where you're coming from.
And I've been at it long enough that I've also learned that everyone has an opinion, but it doesn't mean their opinion's right for
Sure.
you, right? So someone will say, "Oh, you got to do it this way," and it
Mm,
seems to make sense. But then there's someone else who's successful doing it a different way, and they're like, "Oh, you do it this way." And I think at the end of the day, you have to factor a bunch of things of what's
yeah.
this look like for you. I'm starting to look at my business more now of does this support the life I want
Yeah.
in 3 years from now, let's say, right?
Hmm.
Like I've had to realize, okay, I can come up with 10 ideas of how I could go make money and
Hmm.
they could all work. And then there's that paralysis like, oh, should we launch these 10 different products or businesses? But at the end of the day, it's like, but no, what is imagine 3 years from now?
Yeah.
And whichever one of these are successful, what does it mean you're doing every day? And
Hmm.
then do you want to do that every day? Because
Yeah.
sometimes the idea is more sexy than what the business is going to look like downstream.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the other part is, okay, do I want to increase my workload or stress myself out more just to make a little bit more money? Do I really need that extra money, or is there a better way to do it? And it's that constant flow, but I'm reaching that point in life. I guess I've gotten enough seasoning on me that I'm that way. It's like, okay, let's look at what I want my life to look like in a few years, and not necessarily, okay, what business am I going to be doing, but what do I want my life to be? And then I'll figure out how the business fits into that.
Yeah, that's exactly the process I'm going through right now. Like everything, as soon as I'm thinking, oh, we could do this, or I could
Yep.
come up with this idea, then I think that's what this will mean for you.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna have to hire someone else to do this and this,
Sure.
and then do you want to increase your team, right? Like
Yeah.
even the idea, Jeff, I'm a big believer in mentors. I'm always hiring coaches and things like that. So, anyways, I was at a conference, business leaders conference, and the guys that are running that, they're real big into like 100 million, 200 million, 300 million. Like, how big can you grow your business? And as they're talking, I'm like,
Like,
I don't want a
yeah,
$300 million business. I just don't, because I know the complexity that
that's
goes
correct.
with that. And I don't want the complexity, right? So you can't have the $300 million business and without all the people running it. Maybe now
Yeah.
with AI, you could. So that's the other thing, is everyone's got to know sort of what they want, right? Like
Yeah.
what works for them. And yeah, I don't want a big team anymore.
Nope.
So that's also part of my constraint, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
what can we do with
What
just
what can
this?
I do without growing my team immensely? And yeah, I could grow part of my team to take over my responsibilities, but I really don't want to grow a massive team and have a huge payroll anymore. It's much easier to keep it small and grow it to where I don't have to do all the work, but not have to spend all the time managing team.
For sure. And there's a price to scale, right?
Yeah.
There's a price to scaling, and it's not worth it all the time.
No, I agree with you. Well, let's jump into the fast five questions if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So first question, you wake up in the morning, business is totally gone. You have $500 in your pocket, a laptop, computer, a place to live, food and clothing. What do you do first?
Before I answer, the fast five, are they meaning I have to answer fast?
No,
Okay,
no.
just had to get that out of
I
the
just
way.
zing them at you quickly.
Basically, what I'm going to do with $500 and a laptop is I'm going to take one of the things that I do really well that I know others don't do well.
Mhm.
And I'm going to contact those people and tell them I can help them with that. For me, that is getting leads from stage. I think
Okay.
I I pull 70 to 90% of the audience as a lead, and not a lot of people do that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start contacting them and say, "Want me to show you how to do this?" And then I'm going to have them pay me, and that's where we're going to start.
I
It's
love it.
really narrow, something so niche, and that was the mistake I made in my business early on. Is I didn't do that. I just tried to boil the ocean.
Yeah. Figure out what jumps out of it. What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
The biggest business mistake I ever made was trying to launch a SaaS product just before the iPhone came out. And it was a great idea, but I had no idea what I was doing. The company that we hired to code went bankrupt.
Oh,
I lost a lot of money, which ended up dominoing to me losing my house.
oh,
And it was a total wipeout. And the mistake in it was I was so filled with creativity and ambition and, you know, thinking like this is going to be amazing and not understanding the scope of what I was doing. I just
yeah,
had no idea. That was the
yeah,
biggest mistake I ever made in business.
yeah. It's a fantastic example too. What's a good book that you'd recommend for our audience?
I'm going to give you two. One would be
Please.
for your inner life, and that is the book that really inspired my book that's coming out, and that is called uh, it's called Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. It's
Okay.
by Dr. James Hollis.
Mhm.
And that will really make you think about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it. From a leadership perspective, I guess you didn't ask leadership perspective.
Mhm.
Um,
Hey, you're given the bonus plan here.
yeah, well, let me just reel it back in then, and I'll just leave it with Hollis's book. Any of his books actually are fantastic.
I love that. What's a tool you use in your business every day that you might recommend?
I use ChatGPT, which I'm sure most everyone here does. So
Yeah.
that would be a tool I use every
I
day.
think they use it, but they don't use it well. It is a tool that, yes, it is a fantastic tool, but if you don't learn how to use it correctly, it can be a horrible tool to work with. I mean, it's like any tool you use, it's how you use it and learning how to use it properly. So,
The second tool I'll add in, I upgraded my camera. I used to just use
okay.
my webcam all the time
Yep.
and just put a little bit of more care into that. And it
Mhm.
totally changes the look of being on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this funny. This camera that I have that I use for here, I mean, is an old HD camera that I've had for years, and I didn't think it would work as a webcam, and it works awesome. I mean, it works almost better than my $1,000, Canon camera from that perspective. So I started using it in the podcast studio, and it was just kind of an offshoot, and it's worked exceedingly well, and it's probably 12 years old. So,
Perfect.
last question. What is your definition of freedom?
My definition of freedom for me, freedom is being able to chart my own path and know that I am the one who's completely responsible for it. That doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean there's not stressful moments of like, I got to make payroll this month and we've been, whatever, sales have been down and how I'm going to do that. Even though that's stressful. And for many, that would seem like that's not freedom. The freedom is that I don't have to go to someone and say, hey, is it okay if I take a week off in December?
Yep,
And if I want to fly to Spain and live for 3 months like I did a few years ago, I can do that. That's freedom to me.
I love it. Absolutely. And that I would exactly say is freedom from my perspective. It's the ability to do that. And I've had times where I could and times where I haven't. And I miss those times where I haven't been able to do it. So, James, thank you so much for being on today. It was just a wonderful conversation with you. If somebody is interested in learning a little bit more about your world, where's the best place to go?
please go to jamesrobbins.com. That's two B's, jamesrobbins.com, or find me on LinkedIn and let me know that you heard us here on Jeff's show.
Awesome. Well, James, thanks for being on. Wish you luck with the new book coming up. I look forward to having a chance to read it. It's right up my alley with the storybook. So can't wait for it to come out.
Sounds good, Jeff. Appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you, sir. And folks, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We are going to be adding, especially to the YouTube channel, a whole sleeve of stuff specifically towards the business owners out in the audience, and a whole little separate, what I would call podcast or vlog for that purpose. So make sure you're checking that out, and make sure you check out the Business Owner's Retirement Blueprint, which is our newest book that I just brought out in the last week. And it really focuses around that process of transition out of your business and what it takes to do it right. So thanks a lot, and we will see you guys back here the very next time.